It used to be said that the two biggest faults of Topra were no custom cases and no MX keycap compatibility. Here in front of me, both those issues have been solved. The case issue has been solved by Ryan Norbaforce. He is an outstanding individual who is nice enough to let me review this Norbaforce prototype. It may not be the final production version, but it's close enough to warrant a review. Let's make it so. This case, designed by Ryan Norbaforce, fits the Realforce 87U, 86U, 88U, and 89U models. Basically, all the Realforce TKLs under the sun. The one you see here on camera is the Enigma Gray powder-coated model. Let's start with disassembling your Realforce 87U. Simply undo the clips on the bottom of the keyboard to separate the top and the bottom. Make sure to leave the PCB and plate attached to the bottom. You'll need to disconnect the cable and undo the ground wire before you separate the plate and PCB from the bottom of the case. Once that's free, feel free to screw the ground screw back on or keep it near and handy. Compared to the stock Realforce 87U case, this Norbaforce case is quite hefty and has an imposing look. Unlike the plastic case that normally comes with the Realforce 87U, this aluminum case is the bee's knees. The angled risers make the Norbaforce's angle about the same as the angle on the Realforce 87, except it sits a bit higher. Without the angled risers, it's a flat keyboard, flat profile. The machining is pretty nice on these angled risers. Even though it does create a seam on the otherwise seamless keyboard case, it's worthwhile for your typing experience. To open up the Norbaforce case, simply undo the 16 screws that attach the bottom plate to the case. Take out the 4 hex screws on the bottom of the case that will be securing the plate to the top of the case. Please note that the production models will not require the washers that mine have. Prototypes can often have small tolerance differences that get solved in the production run. Next, you'll need to attach the ground wire to the PCB and the cable between the PCB and breakout PCB. The breakout PCB has a USB-C port. A lot of people say USB-C is the future, but is that the reason Ryan chose USB-C? No, he chose it simply because people wanted it. In his interest check, that was one of the most requested features. And honestly, that's a good enough reason for me, because if you're not living in the future, just like myself, every keyboard case will include a USB-C to USB-A cable. After you have the breakout PCB connected with the Realforce PCB, screw in the 4 screws around the plate, reattach the back plate, and redo those 16 screws. Yep, you're going to be doing a lot of screwing. Also, the back plate in the final versions will be a clear anodized silver back plate, not the gray one that I have, and that's for every color option. On the bottom, you'll notice that Ryan took the opposite approach of Topra when it comes to rubber bump-ons. With the risers on, there are 6 rubber bump-ons that make contact with your table, and if you have the risers off, there are 8. This keyboard isn't moving anywhere. It's nice and solid as you type. The model I received was one of the powder-coated options, which has a very interesting texture. It's a bit grainy, but refined due to its consistency. I know many people don't like certain aluminum anodizations because it isn't buttery smooth on the touch. A powder-coated case that is textured like this definitely isn't the case for them unless it's specifically what you're looking for. For everyone else, it has a feeling of an extra layer of rugged durability. The case I received, like I mentioned, is a prototype, and that territory comes with many disclaimers like I've mentioned, so please keep that in mind between this version and the final production runs. The case sounds pretty good. There's room to put a thin sheet of foam if you want to dampen the sound. Even though I said this case sounds pretty good, a lot of it is based on opinion. It has a bit of a hollow sound to it due to the resonance between the aluminum top and bottom. My advice is if you don't like that kind of sound, add the foam and it'll definitely deafen it quite a bit. But what do I think about how this case looks? One of the main reasons at least, anyone should be considering the case. It's absolutely gorgeous. The texture is nice to the touch, and if you want more of a traditional smooth finish, go with one of the anodization options. It's much cheaper than the powder coated options. But speaking of pricing, the Norbaforce isn't necessarily cheap. The 2 anodized options, aerospace aluminum and tactical black, are $259 and $299 respectively. The price upgrade for the tactical black is due to the hard anodization process. All of the powder coat options are $369, and there's a lot of options. Retro Refrigerator, Space Station White, Galaxy Console Enigma Black, Enigma Gray, Royal Winkle Black, Venice Beach, Astrophysical Purple, Monte Carlo Red, and Singularity Black. As Ryan's a very accommodating man, he also has win-keyless versions of the case available. $20 more if it's an anodized case, $15 more if it's a powder-coated case. I have talked to him about this, and even though it's something that a lot of people want, it's an odd desire for a non-programmable keyboard. So we've decided to list something out for all of you now. If anyone's watching this, you know PCB design or you know someone who does, and they or you might be interested in designing a breakout PCB that is programmable, let us know. We can reward you. Please contact us for more information and we can provide specs on what it needs to fit. This is something that will hopefully benefit everyone if possible, and if it's finished soon enough, it might even ship with the production models. Speaking of when it will be shipping, the group buy will end in a few days and there might not be around too. I talked with Ryan about Tobra's decision to change the cases in the future RealForce keyboards. They might not be compatible with this current run of cases, so when round 2 happens, it might not be compatible with the original RealForce TKLs as they might be designed for the new ones. So if you're on the fence about getting one to fit your current RealForce, you should consider getting one, otherwise you might miss out. Unlike the NovaTouch case he's made in the past, he's not planning on having them stocked at any vendor, and he will only be ordering so many extras, mostly to accommodate people who may have problem with theirs. This group buy ends soon. Very soon actually. I wish I could do this review earlier. The cases aren't expected to come out until either the spring or the summer of 2018, so we're at some time away, but of course it's always better to under-promise and over-deliver, and with this case, definitely over-delivering on my expectations. I love the design and look of this case. I love how it made my keyboard sounds. This has definitely elevated my RealForce to a good keyboard to a great keyboard. The case is always something that's held people back when it comes to Topra boards, and now there are premium options like this one. The price is definitely a bit high, but for a high price, you're getting a very premium product. I don't really have many complaints at all. I wish that depending on your color, not all of the backs would be silver like for the production models. I wish if you had a darker case, for example, you can choose to have a darker aluminum back. But it's not something that you'll see all the time. It's on the bottom of your keyboard after all. USB-C is a very nice touch, and the fact that you don't no longer have to use the included attached cable definitely brings more customizability for cables in the future. I'm really looking forward to how this turns out. I'm really looking forward to this keyboard and hoping that people enjoy it just as much as I do. I highly suggest you pick up a Norbaforce. Thank you for watching.